You're watching XFA On Demand with Dave Farah.
Hi, I'm Crew Rubin. Welcome to Extreme Power Gym in Oceanside, California.
Welcome to XFA On Demand. My name is Dave Farah at Extreme Power Muay Thai at the one and only Bill Goldberg. Thanks for talking to us today, my friend.
Anytime, man, anytime. It's always a pleasure to be able to talk about guys beating the shit out of each other.
Yeah, and that's exactly what's happening, especially recently. Especially in the UFC, we've seen a lot of really quality fights, a lot of really good ones, and one comes to mind immediately as a big point of interest for me because there's some parallels with careers, and of course I'm talking about Brock Lesnar winning the heavyweight championship over Randy Couture. You've spent a lot of time around Brock, right?
Yeah, there were few and far between as far as people that I really hung out with when I was in the wrestling business, but first and foremost, we were athletes, and I think that's why we hit it off in the beginning. And he was a good guy, so we became good friends throughout the process. We didn't wrestle against each other, but that one time. But yeah, I know Brock pretty well.
Starting to see a lot of wrestlers that, of course, are fans of fighting, but also thinking about making that move over. And I've visited your MySpace a couple of times, and, of course, people are posting on your page whether or not you would ever consider making a move into mixed martial arts. What's the answer to that?
I would consider it, except for the fact that, I'm coming up on 42 years old. I got a 2.5-year-old boy. I got my own TV show. My wife has her TV show. And to be perfectly honest with you, I don't really like jumping into anything unless I can give myself 100% in preparation. And if I can find the time, and if the right situation comes across the table, then absolutely, I have no business, or I have no problem getting in the ring or the cage or whatever. But I don't want to insult myself first and foremost, and I sure as hell don't want to insult the fans by being another professional wrestler going out there and trying to fight. So. If Crew over there, would get me prepared, then I think it could be a possibility for damn sure.
I know that you're fast friends with Big Bob Sapp, who's always entertaining to watch fight. I would pay a lot of money to see you guys go at it.
You know what? You almost saw us go at it at the dinner table on the set of The Longest Yard, but yeah, Bob is a great guy, man. He's a great character. He's very smart, and then he's been able to parlay his professional wrestling into fighting overseas, and then doing the movie appearances and fighting in the States. And more power to him, man. People could say what they want about Bob, but anybody who's 375 with a six-pack and the ability to go out and do some of the stuff that he's done, he's multi-talented, and he's taking advantage of opportunities, and that's what life's all about.
Let's talk a little bit about what's upcoming for the UFC, because I know that you're really good buddies with Rampage Jackson. He's got a huge fight coming up at UFC 92, one of those career-defining moments against Wanderlei Silva, who has given him a lot of problems in the past. How do you think that fight's going to go?
It's a cliche, but it depends on who shows up that night. It depends on which Wanderlei shows up and which Quentin shows up. You could look at the past fights and try to figure out mentally and physically where they were in their careers. And I'm friends with both of them, man. Obviously, Wanderlei's got a little bit of a language barrier, although he's learning the English a hell of a lot better than he did, or he had been able to speak it. But and Quentin and I speak to each other, fairly frequently. But you hope for the best. It's tough for me to ever call a fight, man, because they're all friends of mine. You hope for the best for both of them. You hope that whatever happens in the fight, this is a really shitty answer. I'm not giving you a yes or no. But you just hope that it's a great, entertaining fight for the fans. You hope they don't get hurt, and you hope that their careers can prosper whether they win or lose. I'm gonna have to pick Quentin for this fight. It may surprise people, but is it because I know that Quentin's in the best shape of his life and he's due? No. It's because Quentin needs this fight more than anybody out there right now because of everything that's going on with him outside the cage. Quentin Jackson is a very reserved guy at times, and he's a really great guy. People just really don't know him. And, what you see sometimes is what you get with the UFC, with the character that he portrays. We'll see what happens with him, but I'm going to have to pick Quentin. I don't know if it's going with my head or my heart, but he's due.
Let's talk about another very interesting spectacle in the MMA world, especially with your involvement with Elite XC. I'm sure that you know Kimbo very well. Mm-hmm. What's the next step for this guy? Is there a future for him in the MMA world? Does he need to do this rematch with Petrozelli that they're talking about overseas? What do you think's the best move for Kimbo?
If I was his manager, I'd say there's no question that he needs to fight overseas. He needs to fight Seth again. There's no doubt about it. He'll never live that one down. He'll go to his grave knowing that he could have killed him, in his head. But I think if he had time to prepare for him, and he knew obviously that that's who he was fighting that night, and it wasn't. And maybe if it was overseas and it would reduce a little bit of the pressure being live on CBS, I think he needs to do that for his soul. He also needs to do that for his pocketbook because they pay big overseas. There's no doubt. And a lot of people will want to see that. And if he's smart, he'll get buy rates. But unfortunately, not a lot of these guys understand that part of it. But you guys are going to freaking hate me after I say that. But I think the best place for Kimbo is the WWE.
Really?
I think the best place for him is the WWE. Either that or wrestling over in Japan. I like Kimbo a lot. He's not an MMA guy. I think he's behind the 8 ball when he got into the business in that his age and his lack of experience, whether he was coached by Randy Gattani or whether he was coached by Boss. That's all wonderful, but it's a little hard to teach a guy who's up in age, and especially a guy who they're hanging their hat on promotion-wise. And he was under a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. And, you got to feel for Kimbo, but I'll be damned if somebody comes up to me and says, hey, we'll pay you $500,000 to go out and fight live on CBS. I'd go fight 10 people for no, I wouldn't, actually.
This is contract, right? This is binding.
Cut that, because, I wouldn't. But in his situation, when you per se come from nothing, monetarily, job-wise, prior to being cast upon live television on CBS in front of 6 million people, more power to the guy. It's just a shame that the people who were handling him promotion-wise really didn't understand the direction that he should have gone.
Elite XC, that whole breakdown was very messy, and a lot of fighters seemingly suffered from it. One person that immediately leaps to mind, and everyone's asking about her, is Gina Carano. This girl's got a bright future. Dana White has suddenly softened his stance on possibly doing a female MMA fight. He's talking about doing it in the WEC, but if you were Gina Carano's manager, what would you say the best move for her would be?
I'd say for her to go sign with the XFA.
Yeah, I agree.
That one's a tough one, man, because, she is the pioneer right now. She's the face of women's MMA. I think that if Dana White opens up the doors, whether it be WEC or whether it be the UFC, I think she ought to take the opportunity. Hopefully she'll definitely be moving backwards financially, because I know Dana's not going to pay her what she got paid over with the big guys. Maybe not. I hope I'm wrong. But the fact is that the women's division needs to continue on. There are a lot of people out there who find it very entertaining, and I'm one of them. And she put on some really good fights. Get her and Cyborg together, I guarantee you there'll be a lot of people to pay for that one. Whether it's 1 fight, 10 fights, I think it's just good for the business and it's good for the sport.
I want to thank you for talking to us today here on XFA On Demand, the one and only Bill Goldberg. If you want to hang out with him, VegasFightCamp.com, Super Bowl weekend in Vegas. Thanks, man.
Check it out. Be there in Vegas. You won't regret it.
What's up, business?
I'm Bill Goldberg for the XFA. Join me Super Bowl weekend for VIP parties and fantasy fight camp. Go to VegasFightCamp.com and learn how.